Hi, welcome to episode 72 of The Corner of Knit and Tea. I'm Laura, also known as Fluffy K on Ravelry, Fluffy Kira on Instagram and Twitter. I blog over at The Corner of Knit and Tea, and that's where this episode and every episode show notes will be. I have an Etsy shop called The Stash Buckler, Adventures in Yarn, where I sell my handspun yarns. And we have a group on Ravelry called The Corner of Knit and Tea. If you haven't come over and checked us out, please do. So hi, how are you? I hope you are having a wonderful month. I know some of you are probably watching Snowbound from the East Coast, and I hope that you are staying warm and dry and powered up. For those of you who are outside the United States, the East Coast is experiencing a large snowstorm this weekend, and some areas got as much as 30 to 36 inches of snow, which is quite a bit. So they are snowed in. We, on the other hand, are enjoying a brief respite from the cold. It was 12 degrees last Sunday when I recorded when I was speaking to you. And this weekend it is actually in the 40s, which to us feels balmy and lovely. So we've been outside today without coats, which is amazing. All the snow that we got this week seems to be melting off in the sun. And actually it is not supposed to cool down too much because next weekend we're actually supposed to hit 50. And this is not super normal weather for us, but the Midwest does actually usually do quite a bit of up and down, so it's not super abnormal either for us to have a nice weekend in the middle of it. It does not mean that our winter is coming to end, although my husband pointed out that the geese seem to have migrated back already, because we have had snow as late as May before, so it still could be a while, but it is a little bit of a nice weekend. All the week has been overcast and gross, and today there's a little bit of sun, so it's just a nice mood changer. The week for me has been busy with crafting, but not too much else has been going on. Nothing big to report. A little something, which I will get to in the spinning section, that has made this a nice week for me. But otherwise, I guess not too much news, so I will go right into today's podcast. So today I am drinking a tea that I have drunk before. It was a gift from my sister. It is from Tea Geschwender. And I'm sure that I'm completely butchering that because I'm sure there is a much better German way to say that. And it is a blackberry flavored fruit tea. This was a gift from my sister. Tea Geschwender actually has a brick and mortar shop in Chicago. And so she gave me a bunch of teas a couple years ago and I'm still enjoying them. This is plump blackberries, make for a luscious midsummer iced tea for warm distraction come colder months. Apple pieces, hibiscus blossoms, rose hips, elderberries, and blackberries. So I made myself a nice cup of tea in my Jenny the Potter mug, which has the black sheep and the white sheep, and I am enjoying that. Although I also have an iced tea that I picked up when we went out to lunch out in the living room, so I'm partaking of both today. So that is Tea Geschwender Blackberry Tea in my Jenny the Potter mug. That is delicious, but quite hot. Okay, so let's move on to the knits this week. I have two finished objects. One is not one that I have ever showed you before. The first is the Lowlands hat. This is a pattern by Tin Can Knits, and I believe it is a paid-for pattern that costs around $5. However, it was one of the patterns that Tin Can Knits gave away in their 12 Days of Christmas. So I happened to get it for free, and it is a really cool hat. You sort of, as you can tell, you cast on and do the brim in one direction, and then you pick up and do the rest of the hat in the other direction. This is a lone skein of Malabrigo. It is just their regular merino worsted, and I decided to do another hat for the 25,000 Toques project. So that's where this one will be going. I used about right around 55 grams of the skein, which is a little over half, which means that I have enough left to do one of the smaller sizes of the hat. I think I have enough left to do, I know I have enough left to do the baby and possibly the toddler. I think I'll probably do a baby hat, which will be the exact same pattern, and I will join them together and hopefully they will go off to a family. Again, I've spoken about the 25,000 Toques project. There will be a link to it in my show notes. I actually inspired my knit group to knit some hats. So a couple of them are knitting hats as well, and I'm going to be our collection point for our knit group. So I have another week and a half. I said not this coming Wednesday is the deadline, but the following Wednesday, so I can send them out the first week in February. So you will probably see a couple more hats from me before I send them out. But this is, again, Lowlands by Tin Can Knit, and that's in Malabrigo. It was the Violetas colorway, and I believe the pattern called for a size 7 needle, so that is what I used, and I'll probably knit another baby one before next week. So that is my first finished object of the week. My second finished object of the week, and it is not 100% finished because I had it blocking and it's just dry today and I didn't have time to put buttons on it before I show it to you, but it does still need buttons, is I finished my wee Liesel. Now, I didn't have much to do from last week, I just had sleeves, and actually, I'll tell you what, I kind of cheated on the sleeves. I made them short sleeves. I really dreaded knitting them. I don't know why, I just didn't want to pick it up and knit the darn sleeves, which was all it needed to be finished, and it is adorable. And so I had a friend who said, why not just knit short sleeves? Short sleeves are more practical on a baby anyway. They'll be putting her in a onesie, and she's right, and this is for a California baby. So I do need to put on buttons. I did 3 buttonholes, so it will button towards the top. And the buttons that I have actually used before. Hang on, because I pulled them over here and I'm just not sure. Ah, right here. They are purple buttons with flowers on them. I hope you can see those. So I will be putting a couple of those on there, and actually I checked and they look very nice against the sweater itself. So I think that's going to be a do. And then I have a card, and actually, hopefully, I think I'm going to try and finish this afternoon and get it out. Mama is between 36 and 37 weeks, and she had her first early, so my guess is the second will be early too. So again, that is Wee Liesel by Isolde Teague, knit on a US 6 needle, not a US 8 needle, as I tried to do the first time and had to rip. And this is the 0 to 6 month size. And like I said, it's for a California baby who's being born in February, so I didn't anticipate I needed to do long sleeves or make it bigger to fit her later on. So that is what I've got and what will be worked on this afternoon. So those are my 2 finished objects for the week. I'm pretty proud because I didn't think I would have finished objects this week, or I wasn't sure I would. So now we'll go on to the longer term projects. I have made a huge amount of progress and can finally sort of show you something of the Vita shawl, which is by Mina Phillip, who is the Knitting Expat podcast. I chose to knit the large size, and boy is it large. As I'm putting the border on, spoiler, I got to the border, man, this thing is huge. I wanted a big fluffy shawl to wrap myself in, but oh my goodness, I'm probably going to give this, well, I'm definitely going to give this a block because there's lace, but I'm thinking I'm probably going to give it a light block or maybe even a steam block because I just don't know that I want to really stretch this out that much or it will absolutely dwarf me. So you will actually be able to see some of what I'm doing because I am on the border now. Again, this is a shawl by Mina Phillip. I'm using Tosh Merino Light. The main colorway, the dark blue, is called Mirth, and the light edging is Mica, which is a bluish green. So you can see that the shawl is basically in thirds. It's got stockinette sections and then the lace section in the middle. And then when you get down to the edge, you are doing a lace edging border that kind of mocks the leaf pattern that you are doing throughout. So let me see if I can sort of show you. This is, I mean, albeit upside down, this is the lace edging. And on the large size, you have 65 repeats, and I am up through 38. And I have to tell you, I'm slightly losing the will to knit. So I am just barely past the halfway point here. Halfway point being number 33. So I still have a ways to go on finishing this. However, I see no problem with finishing this week. My plan is to try and finish it tonight, tomorrow, Tuesday night so that I can set it up to block, take some photos. Mina is having a knit along for her Vita collection. The collection was the shawl. There was also a hat and a pair of socks. And she's having a knit along that expires on the deadline is July 31st. I would also like to submit this for Harry Potter House Cup class, so I do need to finish it and then submit it everywhere for my various contests, and then it will be ready to wear. And I am super, super excited about that. So again, that is the Vita shawl. The colors are really, really not quite right. I will try and take some nice photos when I am done, and it completely blows out the computer monitor. I will try and take some nice photos when I am done, which will give you some idea of the colors, and I will post those on Instagram and on my project page. This has been an incredibly enjoyable knit. Were I to do it again, I might possibly do the smaller size. So the big size is 3 skeins of yarn, 2 of the main color, 1 of the contrast. The small size is 1 of the main color, 1 of the contrast. And just looking at this is going to be beyond my wingspan before blocking. Well beyond my wingspan before blocking. So this is going to be enormous. But of course, I like big shawls. And I cannot lie. So that is my Vita shawl. So the last work in progress that I have on my needles, and I am also hoping to finish this in time for the end of the month, although I don't know if that'll happen. I guess we'll see. And I showed you that last time, and actually, drat, I'm in the middle of a row again, which is really not the best way to show this to you, but I will anyway. And this has not seen a lot of love this week because I've been working on the other things, but I feel like as soon as I finish the Vita shawl, this is going to be the only thing on the needles. And so if I really finish the Vita shawl in the next day or two, I will have the rest of this week to play with this one, which means it will totally be done. So this is the Breaker's Cowl by Holly Yo. It was part of the Tempest collection for Sweet Georgia yarns, but I am not using Sweet Georgia yarns. I'm using Woolfolk in the far base, which is their worsted base, and it's kind of a cable yarn. And I have gotten a little further. Last week I was in the first black row, and so I have gotten a few of the medium gray. I have like a light gray, grayish, really dove gray, and then kind of a black ebony charcoal, and then kind of a, I don't even remember what this gray is called, maybe more of a slate, and I have a lot of rows to do that in the middle, and then they alternate a bunch of things again. Anyway, so I have done a few rows, and I hope to be doing this more this week, and again, this is just going to be a whole bunch of color block rows, and then it's going to be a big, squishy, fluffy cowl, and I can already tell that this is going to be warm, and it's going to be fabulous up against my neck. And I have all kinds of different colored hats and gloves and things, so I think the black and the white and the gray will actually be, or the black and the grays will actually be a great contrast. So there you have it. That is the last whip. As I said, I will probably try and knit another hat this week. For the 25,000 Toques project. I'll probably try and knit that baby hat. And then I haven't decided if I'm going to knit any others. I also found a couple hats in my drawer where I knit them, and for whatever reason they didn't fit quite right, and I didn't ever really wear them. Like, I tried them on, but I never wore them. So I think I'm going to throw a few of those in there to someone who could need them more than I, because I knit a whole bunch of hats and I only have one head. So that is what I am working on, and I will be slowing down a little bit on the hats. I still want to knit charity hats throughout the year, but of course the need is greater in January and February, and these are going to Canada, which may stay cool well into March, April, May, so I really do want to kind of strike while the iron is hot in terms of making a bunch of things and sending them off. And I also find that, I think I've said this before, it's kind of hard to find good causes to, there are so many people out there who could actually use knitted goods, but sometimes it's hard to find a way to get those knitted goods to the people who most need them. And there are a number of organizations that collect, but it's hard to find a reputable one where you know that what you're making will actually be given to a person in need who really needs it. And so there are lots of ways we can help, and all of us want to knit and do something. But so when a cause comes along that I feel like I can really support, I really try and support it. So, and actually it's kind of exciting to me that my knit group got interested, and that they've been giving me some hats, because the argument I made was that we could put together a big priority box, and if a bunch of us kicked in $1 or $2, we could send it to the US collection point easy. And so that's pretty much what we're doing, and I'm ending up being our collection point, which is fine, and I can put tags on everything and send it all out. So we are about halfway through the episode, and that is the knitting this week. So let's move on to the spinning, and I have some interesting things to talk about there, and then we will move on to the giveaway prize. So, and actually I will also answer some questions arising from the comments. So let's start with spinning. Last week I showed you a beautiful braid of Hello Yarn. It was organic Polworth, and it was in purples and golds and a little bit of green and a little bit of pink and peachy rose. And I finished that one, and it is gorgeous. It is the Colliding Galaxies colorway, and as you can see, there are pinks and peaches, and it's very gold, and there's lots of purple, and there's some sections of it. They almost look white here, but I'm gonna say mostly they're very light yellow, kind of as it fades into something else, although there are a few sections that are almost a little bit white or a very, 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 very pale green. Anyway, this came out to be approximately I think about 340 yards. It is squishy. It is definitely sport weight, possibly even a light DK. Polworth just puffs up. This is a wonderfully soft skein. It would be great next to your skin, and it would be great for accessories or something fun, and it's got enough yardage that it could be a shawlette or a cowl. This one is up in the shop and is not spoken for if you would like to purchase. So the next spin that I showed you was because I had a long week long weekend last weekend, and I had some time off, and I thought I'd get to 2 spins this week, and I did for the most part. I finished spinning the singles on this second spin, and now I am just going to ply it this evening. But I also wanted to talk about a little bit about what's exciting about this spin this week for me. So I don't know how many of you have heard of Acreworks bobbins. Acreworks is a company, I don't know exactly when it started. It's been around for a few years, and their claim to fame, along with some other, I know they do some other things, but I'm only really familiar with their spinning tools, is they started trying to print 3D bobbins for spinning wheels. And I can't remember which ones they started with. I know they did the mini spinner fairly early, and trying to think what else. They might have done the woolly winder bobbins pretty early. And so basically, there are a whole bunch of benefits to these. One is that they're, for some wheels, the bobbins can be very expensive. I know the woolly winder bobbins, I think, are either 45 or 55. The mini spinner bobbins are about the same. So it gets very expensive to buy extra bobbins if you want a variety of bobbins. The other thing is that when you buy bobbins, particularly for the mini spinner, or for some of the other wheels, the bobbins are very large, and so they take up a lot of space. So the two benefits that I can, the big benefits, and I think sort of where they started, including that it was just fun to be playing with a 3D printer, is that the Acreworks bobbins would be a little bit less expensive than some of the standard bobbins, and they would do what's called flat pack. When you order an Acreworks bobbin, you get a bobbin shaft with a rod. On each end, there are little, you can see there are little buttons that remind me almost of like umbrella. They depress and then they pop back out to snap into place. So you get your bobbin shaft and then you get the 2 ends. And they actually come in this nice mesh case, which I can't find the one for this one. I know where the one is for the one I just got, but I'll get to that in just a moment. And they arrive like this, and so they're super flat, and if you wanted to store them somewhere, you can store them very, very flat. You can pack them in a suitcase if you're going on vacation and you don't have a whole bunch of extra bobbins. The benefits of using the 3D printing are that they can do very cool things. They can make all kinds of different patterns. This pattern is called the lotus pattern. And they also have a million different, okay, not a million different, it's probably like 30, a bunch of different colors of plastic that you can choose for your bobbin. So, and this, the color on this is not showing upright. This is a very teal, I believe it's called emerald green, because their actual like teal aqua range is really more of a turquoise, and it's called powdered blue. So I ordered this one. Like I said, this is the Lotus in emerald green, right after I got my mini spinner in May, particularly because I was traveling with it. So, and the way these work is that you take your end with your buttons, and you take the inside where, I think if I hold it up close enough, you can probably see that there are some little grooves, and you fit your little pegs into the grooves. And it's a little snug, but it should be. And so you do that on both ends. And then what you do is you twist a little bit and they lock into place. There's some grooves in there, and so they lock into place. So then you have a bobbin that you can spin with. So, and this fits on my mini spinner. It holds, it will hold up to 8 ounces of fiber, although that gets a little tight, but it definitely will fit my mini spinner. So back to spinning this week and the braid that I worked on next. Acreworks has been working on bobbins for different wheels. And originally I asked a long time ago, probably a couple of years ago, if they were ever going to make bobbins for Ashford, because I have an Ashford Joy wheel, and I was curious about bobbins. And the answer that I received at the time was that that wasn't super high on their list, because the Ashford bobbins, I have wooden bobbins, I have, so my wheel is an Ashford Joy, I use it in single drive, it is a double treadle wheel, and mine came with the upgraded sliding hook flyer, rather than the stationary hooks. And so my bobbin is a medium-sized bobbin, and I have gotten 6 ounces on there, but it will definitely hold 5. So normally it's plenty for what I need to do. And the interesting part is that the Ashford wooden bobbins, you can get them unfinished for $14.95, and you can get them finished for $20.25. So the answer that I got originally when I asked Acreworks if they were ever going to do Ashford bobbins was probably not, because it's not really cost effective. The Acreworks bobbin for the mini spinner, I believe this one was $36. And so they're not, I mean, they are a savings if your bobbins are $50 plus shipping. They're not really a savings if your bobbins are $14 or $20, because that's what they spend in materials and packaging and shipping, and design and what. Anyway, fast forward several years, 2-3 years, and they are starting to develop bobbins for every wheel out there. And they have not hit all the wheels yet, and it will probably take them a while to hit all the wheels because there is a lot of design and testing that goes on. However, just a couple weeks ago, I happened to follow Acreworks on Instagram. And just a couple weeks ago, they posted that they were getting ready to release some Ashford bobbins, and was anyone interested in testing? And if they were, they should go and sign up. It's a little Google sign up form on their site. And I signed up, and I was selected. So I got to test an Ashford bobbin or a bobbin for my Ashford Joy. So this arrived on Friday evening. And I was allowed to pick my color and my design. So I got this is the sunflower design, and the colorway is orchid. And basically what they want me to do is they want me to take this out and spin, 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 spin. So Friday night, I actually had waited to start the second braid until it got here. So Friday night, I went ahead and I spun the first ounce. And yesterday I spun the rest of the 3 ounces. It was a big spinning day. And now I am going to wind this off into a center pole ball and ply back on it and see what I can do. So, and then I will take next week's spin and do the same thing. And basically I'm just supposed to use it as much as I can and give them a little bit of feedback on it. So I am not going to give my feedback here today. I will discuss it next week, and I will take it apart and show it to you in pieces next week. Right now I can't because I have the fiber on it. But I will give you a full review next week because basically the testing period is about 2 weeks. And so we will be close to done then, and so I will have given them all of my feedback so I can tell you what I thought about it, and if they have announced that they're going to make any changes to right before they make them available for the public. I expect that there will not be much in the way of changes before they make them available to the public. I think they do a ton of testing in-house before they release them to the public, and honestly this last public thing is to just see if there's any random spinner who does something to it that they haven't been able to recreate in the studio, or that they haven't been able to do in the studio, and just make sure that these are really ready to go before they start selling them. But so that was my excitement. I am testing the Acreworks bobbin, and again, that's the sunflower design in orchid. There are 6 or 8 whorl designs that you can pick, and then again there are I think between 20 and 30 colors, and I'm super excited. I haven't decided exactly what I'm going to do, if I'm going to order some more. I will say, okay, so I will say, and this is not really a comment on this one at all, and I will say that my Ashford bobbins, the wood ones, they tend to come apart after a while. I mean, I use them quite a bit because I spin at least a braid a week, and so most days I spin an hour or two. The Ashford bobbins tend to come apart a bit, and my husband ends up having to glue them back together for me, like the ends come off the shaft. And after so many times of gluing them, like a couple times, the bobbins kind of become a little bit less well balanced, and so they make noise when they spin, or they don't move smoothly, and so I have actually had to retire a couple of my Ashford bobbins because they're just not working well anymore. And I am curious, and again, this is not a comment on these at all, I am curious to see how these hold up over time, like in the next year, as I do a lot of spinning on it, to see if they will hold up better than the Ashford wooden bobbins, because the cost at this point is kind of a draw. I believe the Ashford bobbins are going to be between 24 and 26, and again, I can get the finished Ashford bobbin for about $20. But I would totally invest in these because they're fun and they're colorful, and particularly if they end up lasting longer than my Ashford wooden bobbins, I would totally go ahead and switch over to these. So, and I probably will order another 1 or 2 for my mini spinner because again, for the mini spinner bobbins, it is a cost savings, and I would like some more bobbins for the mini spinner, and also the flat pack really is a great thing for my mini spinner, because if I want to take that on vacation, I don't want to have room for all of these bobbins in there. Obviously, if I fill them up and I don't empty them while I'm on vacation, I will have to bring them home with more space, but I like the idea that I can just pack a couple in a bag with nothing. So that is my exciting spinning news. I will be applying this evening, and then I will be starting on another braid, which I will show you right now. This is a braid of Hello Yarn. This was a special die that she did in November and was actually open to everyone. It was based on a picture. She asked us for October is usually picture month, where she asks everyone to submit pictures, and then she dyes, she takes inspiration from those pictures and dyes a colorway from that, and she did dye a monthly club colorway from that, but then she also dyed, she was so inspired by the pictures, she decided to dye a second colorway, and she made it available in her shop. It was dyed to order, so it took a little while to come, but this is Ghastly Horrors, and this is on Falkland, and unfortunately the colors aren't showing up exactly correctly. It is browns and greens and blues and a little bit of maybe indigo and some black, and it is just kind of the inspiration picture was a house kind of up on a hill with some crows and trees around, and it was just supposed to be kind of ghastly. So I will be spinning this week's Falkland is one of my favorite wools to spin. It is also a particularly good wool for someone new to spinning. It is very soft. I believe it's well, no. This is where my non-sheep knowledge really hurts me a little bit. It is a longer stapled wool. It feels more like a merino, but it is longer stapled, so that means that it is a lot easier to draw. So it's really nice for beginning spinners to be able to play with something like Falkland. You also often hear beginning spinners starting with blue-faced Leicester. So this is my spin for this week. While I'm thinking about it, spinning podcasts. I think most of the people who watch me are mostly knitters, but I know that some of you are spinners, so I thought I would make some recommendations. There are a couple of podcasts that if you are really into spinning and want to learn a lot more about technique and wool and spinning intentionally for projects. As you know, I in general spin for a 2-ply and throw it up in the shop. Sometimes I spin for sweater, but if you want to really learn more about intentional spinning, I cannot recommend highly enough Rachel from she is Welford Pearls on the internet, but her podcast is called the Wool and Spinning Podcast, and she pretty much exclusively talks about the wools that she spins, and then if she talks about knitting, it's mostly about knitting that she is doing from the wools that she has spun. And she learns everything about the fibers. She has great wool knowledge, and she also, it's just a really interesting podcast. The other one that does a little bit more with spinning that I have recently been turned on to is Tiny Paper Foxes. And it is a husband and wife team, and the husband, Devin, does a lot of spinning, and he is starting to do some breed studies. So he is starting to pick some fibers, natural fibers, and work with them. And he does do some dyeing, and his wife is the knitter, and she actually also sews. And it is a delightful little podcast, but it is chock full of some interesting things to learn about spinning and his experiences with spinning. So I can recommend that one as well. Okay, let's get into the final segment, which is the giveaway. The first thing that I would like to do is thank you for all your comments. We had 59 comments on the YouTube video, and I appreciate all your nice comments. I appreciate that you all joined me for episodes. There were a few questions which I am going to go through and answer pretty quickly, and then I will go ahead and I've already done the drawing for the alpaca, but I thought I would answer the questions and then I will make the announcement. So one of the questions was Beth Butler, who asked me what method I use to knit socks. And I wasn't sure whether you were talking about patterns or needles. I knit all my socks on DPNs because I like them that way, and I knit them one at a time, which doesn't necessarily help with second sock syndrome. I have done different things over the years. For years, I was a magic looper, and I did 2 at a time on magic loop, and I enjoyed that. But I decided after a while that I spent more time wrangling the yarn and getting everything into the correct position on the socks. So I use DPNs. Most often I do a toe-up vanilla sock, just a plain sock without patterns, and I make great use of David Schultz's toe-up sock cookbook, or toe-up sock recipe. He has a great pattern. He sort of designed it for knitting handspun, but it would completely work with commercial. Basically, he has you do, if you're early to sock knitting, or if you're knitting with some handspun, which, as you know, doesn't always necessarily fit into a certain gauge. I'm sorry, excuse me, let me just get a sip of tea. My throat's really dry. You do a small gauge swatch and you take some measurements of your foot, and then he leads you through developing a sock that will fit your foot. His pattern is a toe up, and then it's a heel with gusset and flap. So those are my preferred methods for knitting socks. Sandra Engett, let's see. Oh, she asked me what I was going to do with my disastrous sock blank project. She asked if I was going to change needle sizes or change numbers of stitches, and the answer is probably yes, to both. I think what I'm going to do is, and I still haven't done it, but I'm hoping maybe this week I will pull out the yarn, wash it, skein it, get it ready to go, and then I am going to do it on my DPNs rather than on a magic loop. I'll do them one at a time. I will continue to do them toe up because that way I can try them on as I go. That is another handy feature of doing socks toe up. And I will try them on and stop when the appropriate number of stitches fits me. I have an idea of what that will be, but I'll just have to knit and see how it fits. Rosina R asked me how long it took to weave the scarf that I showed last week that I was going to send with the hat. I do a little bit of weaving, not so much anymore. I have an Ashford 24 inch, either 20 inch or 24 inch knitter's loom. It was a gift a couple Christmases ago. And it is just a single rigid headed loom. So it does fairly simple designs. I have gotten it down to the point where I can warp the loom, usually in about 45 minutes. That is basically pick the colors that I want for the warp, which is the threads going the long way. So I can do the warp setup in about 45 minutes. And then it usually takes me about 2 to 3 hours to weave a scarf. It just depends whether it's like really fine lace weight or heavier worsted weight or more bulky. It takes me about 2 to 3 hours. Usually what I would do when I was weaving was I would warp the loom and then I would sit down and weave for a little bit, and then the next night I would come back and finish the scarf. It's mostly plain weave. I can do a little bit of patterning with colors, but I have not used pickup sticks or anything else to add other dimensions to it. So the most I've done is kind of a checked pattern, or I can do plaid because I can make that happen with the colors as opposed to the design. And then just about half an hour for finishing work, just, hem stitching the edges, getting the fringe ready to go, and then usually I pop it in the washer and the dryer to kind of full it, wash it, and then full it, and then if I need to, I run a cool iron over it just to kind of straighten it out. So I would say scarves probably between 4 and 5 hours total. It's much faster than spinning or knitting, actually. And so for a while I did that because I thought I might be able to sell some. And they didn't sell as well as I would have liked, so I haven't really worked on them so much. I also find that I have a problem balancing 3 crafts. Usually I come home from work, and if I'm gonna spin, I spin for an hour or two, and then I sit down and knit for the rest of the evening and keep my husband company, and we chat and watch TV and whatever. When I had a third thing to put in there, some nights I'd be spinning, some nights I'd be weaving, some nights I'd be knitting, and it really divided my time. It was hard for me to figure out which nights to do what, and then I felt like on some things I just wasn't accomplishing very much because I wasn't getting very far. So I don't do weaving that much anymore, but that is a kind of long answer to a short question. The final thing that I wanted to respond to is Lady in the 48 asked if I got a haircut. I did. It is much shorter and I've been drying it a little bit differently. And thank you for the question. And there were some nice words there, so I wanted to say thank you. I also want to thank all of you. At the time of recording, I am up to 651 subscribers. So wow, that escalated quickly. But thank you all for joining me. And now I know what you're waiting for is the giveaway. Like I said, there were 59 comments. I basically took everyone's name and gave them a number in the order in which the comment was left. I ran the random number generator, and the winner was number 49, which is Enid Shaw. So congratulations, Enid. Please send me. You can send it to me via Ravelry or via email, which is thestashbuckler@gmail.com. Please send me your full name and, well, I guess I have your full name, but send me your address and I will get that skein of alpaca out to you, and I can't wait to see what you do with it. And given that we're already up to 651, we are going to have to do another giveaway soon. I haven't decided whether it will be 700 or 750. I'm leaning towards 750, but we'll see how long it takes us to get there. It has been a while since the last giveaway, which is why I decided 600 would be a great milestone. Final announcement. This is the last week in the Selfish Knit Along. This is after after we knit all kinds of things for the gift knit along and gave away things for the holidays and knit things for other people, the purpose was to knit a little something for yourself that you wanted to. I am knitting that cowl and that shawl. Of course, they will not go in to be eligible for prizes, but those are my selfish knits this month. And there will be prizes for that. That is running, you know what? I take it back. This is not the last week because I said it would run through February 15th. I was thinking next week is January 31st and we got to get done. Nope, February 15th. So you still have a few more weeks to cast on and knit something for yourself that you've always wanted to. This can go along with please double, triple, quadruple dip with any other knit-alongs that you're being a part of. The only rule is that it has to be something that is for you and brings you some joy and is kind of a little bit selfish at this time of year. So I think that's it. We're at 40 minutes, so let's wrap this up. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for helping me reach so many subscribers. I love you all. Thank you for leaving me such wonderful comments. And I will say until we meet again, happy knitting, happy spinning, happy sipping, and I'll see you next time. Bye.